we return once again to Tsara-Grad, where a vanguard legion of the Ultramarines, under the leadership of Commander Panther, have been waging an endless war against the Orc marauders on this planet. After last week's engagement, the Ultramarines were able to beat back the ambushing Orc force, and now they've received further orders to pursue the Orc Warboss and end his reign in the region, for once and for all. In the dust-filled streets of the once proud Imperial Manufactorium on Tsara-Grad, a deadly urban war is raging between the forces of the Ultramarines and that of the Orc marauders. Commander Panther has received confirmation that there are two forces of Terminators hidden amongst the ruins that will gladly aid them on their fight against the Orcs. And wasting no time, the commander presses his men forward as they take up vital overwatch against the Orcs on the other side of the rail tracks, blasting apart many of their number under the hail of a missile strike as well as a shower of bolt rounds.
Take cover, lads, they're killing us out here!
The Orcs behind the barricades waste little time and return fire at the fast squad on the left-hand flank of the battlefield, only managing to kill a single marine as a missile flies harmlessly overhead, exploding behind them. Commander Dante's men move up behind a broken piece of wall, and the Gretchen just in front of the close combat destroyer unit open fire, unleashing a hail of 20 shots from their autoguns, managing to kill one of the powerful warriors and bringing another Terminator with a lightning claws down into 2 wounds. The attack APC trundles over the battered streets, ready to support Commander Dante's men in their future assaults. The Orcs without the heavy stubber in placement open fire at the Space Marines, but fail to kill any in the deluge of fire. The Assault Terminator group on the left flank storm forward over the train tracks and unleash a devastating wave of fire against the Orcs just in front of them behind the barricades, dousing them in promethium as the minigun tears apart those who fail to find cover. The Orcs, unable to withstand such a heinous assault, promptly fail their morale test and become shaken. Just behind them, the Orcs in the ruins open fire with their bolters at the oncoming Terminators, however, not a single shot manages to strike home. With the attention well and truly taken off of the Space Marine squad on the left flank, they surge forward as well across the train tracks, unleashing a hailstorm of bolter rounds and point-blank rocket shot, which shatters apart the shaken Orcs, leaving none alive. Up in one of the large factory buildings just in front of Commander Dante's squad, the Orcs there open fire with their heavy bolters, with 2 lucky shots smashing through the chest plates on these venerable warriors. They slump lifeless to the ground. Power weapons crackling through the din and dust of the battle, the 2 close combat Terminators rush forward into the horde of Gretchen, swinging their power weapons wildly, with a great thunderhammer crashing a skull of a Gretchen wide open, as the Terminator with the power claws skewers another to his right. The Gretchen, although striking back with utter ferocity, only managed to inflict a single wound, and because the Terminators have won combat, the Gretchen promptly failed her brow test and becomes shaken. Just behind the Gretchen, one of the Orc field guns pivots to the left and unleashes a devastating round straight into the Terminator group, smashing a gigantic hole into his chest plate and dropping this ancient warrior of the Imperium into the ground, dead. The Space Marine combat dreadnought charges forward down the train tracks, eager to provide cover fire to the troopers as they continue to advance, and the Orc artillery in the ruins unleashes another devastating round, this time smashing true against the attack APC. Boss Squig Eater, seeing the rolling advance of the Space Marine forces, orders his boys to fall back to better cover, and his squad retreats further up the road, bringing turn 1 to a dramatic close. The Space Marine push through this bombed-out manufactorium has been a resounding success so far in the battle, yet the Orcs are now consolidating their position, and only further fighting will truly decide a victor, as turn 2 begins. With a valiant war cry, Commander Dante leads his men forward out from behind their cover behind the rubble, and advances straight onto the train tracks, taking up a keen firing position and unleashing a hail of bolter rounds as well as a rocket strike straight into Boss Squig Eater's troops, promptly shaking them.
Boss, Boss, we gotta get out of here.
The mob of Gretchen, just by the lone assault Terminator, promptly rally themselves under threats and curses from the Warboss himself, and back over on the left flank, the Space Marine force finally advances out of cover and unleashes a hail of shots down on the orcs inside the main factory building, devastating many with a direct rocket hit as well as unrelenting bolter shots. The last orc survivors at the heavy stub gun emplacement bellow out a ferocious war cry and charge headlong into these Marines, managing to slay 2 in the ensuing melee, and with the Marines striking back hard, swinging their bolters like makeshift clubs as the orcs attempt to parry and cleave them apart. The Space Marines manage to gain the upper hand, defending themselves valiantly against a flurry of orc choppers. The sergeant breaks the skull open of a lone greenskin. However, the Marines valiantly pass their morale test, and both sides break off, ready for another assault. The venerable combat walker stomps behind the assault Terminator squad, unleashing a hail of machine gun rounds at the orcs inside the building, promptly killing 2 of their number and forcing the rest to become shaken.
I cleanse and purge in the name of the Founder.
The orcs in the high-rise building then open fire at Commander Dante's men as they cross the train tracks, which provide little cover to the downward approach of the bolter shots, and 2 of the Marines' helmets are pierced, they collapse down dead. Hoping to get some breathing room in the battle, the Warboss's unit promptly rallies, and the lone Terminator powers up his Thunderhammer and prepares to continue his vendetta against the foul Gretchen in front of him. The greenskin artillery fires out from the ruins, with a blue laser beam soaring across the battlefield, striking against the venerable combat dreadnought, only inflicting a single wound. Next to the mighty war cries are let loose as the Terminator assault squad stomps forward, unleashing a hailstorm of Promethium and bolter rounds into the last survivors of the orcs, promptly clearing out the ruins.
None shall escape my wrath, all greenskins will die.
Gretchen artillery continues to zone in on the last of the close combat Terminators, and his ancient battle shield fails to stop the incoming projectile, inflicting 2 wounds and promptly shaking the Marine again. Attack APC revs its engine and thunders forward onto the train tracks in front of him, knocking down the flimsy ruins and unleashing its twin-link laser cannon straight into the Gretchen artillery, inflicting 2 wounds. Commander Panther, sensing the orc lines were about to break, orders his men to rush forward to take up position as turn 2 comes to an end. Now, the Space Marines are continuing to advance, but it's not covering nearly as much ground as they did in the first turn, and the orcs, although they are being depleted, still have significant forces in reserve. Turn 3 opens with Warboss, Squig Eater ordering these boys into the main ruins, which is serving as a makeshift fortress, and the attack APC lights up the Gretchen artillery, smashing it to sunder with its twin laser cannons, as well as a hail of bolter rounds. The few orc survivors from the brief close combat assaults then fall back and take up position within the ruins as well, preparing to form a formidable bastion against the oncoming Marine troopers. They then proceed to open fire with their bolters, however these shots patter harmlessly around the Marines and clang off their powerful power armor. The Marine squad then flanks to the left of the building, sighting up the Warboss and unleashing a hail of bolter rounds as well as a missile strike, which eviscerates his squad, and in the chaos and confusion, the Warboss is gunned to pieces, leaving the orcs in a very precarious position. Not to be outdone, the orc heavy machine gun units and bolter boys inside the ruins open fire at the attack APC, with their rounds picking up dust and debris on the battlefield. Commander Panther's men then advance across the train tracks.
Forward, men, for the Founder and for victory!
Unleashing a hailstorm of bolter rounds as well as a rocket strike against the Gretchen forces, smashing apart many of the small blighters, and those who weren't immediately killed by the missile strike were then promptly gunned down in a hail of bullets. The surviving Gretchen, however, are too stubborn to retreat, and they promptly dig in their heels and prepare for future battles. Deciding that it was easier to fight behind cover, they promptly rush in front of the artillery to overlook Commander Panther's men. The Gretchen artillery then sights up the attack APC and fires a blue laser beam across the battlefield, punching 3 massive holes in its armored chassis, leaving it on 9 wounds. Batten down the Houch's men! That grot fire is deadly out there! The assault Terminators on the left flank then march forward and unleash another hailstorm of gunfire from the minigun and storm bolters, as well as a dousing of Promethium from the heavy flamer into the orcs that reposition into the ruins, absolutely slaughtering every last one of them. The combat walker then rushes forward, sprinting over the burning corpses of the enemy, and takes up a formidable overwatch position in the heart of the factory, bringing turn 3 to a close. The battle entering its final phase, the brave yet stubborn orc resistance in this sector is quickly crumbling under the weight of the Marines' advance. Despite taking heavy casualties, they have successfully completed their objective of killing the Warboss, and now it's only a matter of time as they begin to roll up the flanks. The orcs in the holdout building open fire at the approaching Terminator unit, however, their rounds clang harmlessly off the venerable armor, and the combat dreadnought pivots on the spot and provides a hailstorm of covering rounds into the orcs in the building, blasting apart 2 of the blighters before they have a chance to do any more damage. The Gretchen then opened fire with her autoguns at Commander Panther's men, managing to gun down a single Marine, drawing the wrath of the Ultramarines commander, who sprints forward and lines up several shots with the rocket launcher, as well as his Marines' bolters, eviscerating surviving grots.
Cleanse! Purge! Kill!
The Gretchen artillery then decides to fire off one last shot, hoping to kill the commander. However, this beam soars harmlessly over their heads, blasting a hole in the roof behind them. The Terminator unit, who is now rallied, powers up his Thunderhammer and sprints headlong at the Gretchen artillery emplacement. His attack brings his annoying gun down to a single wound, and as the terrified crew members fight back, they're unable to inflict any significant damage to the lone Terminator, yet they pass their morale test, promptly forcing this hulking monster to fall back. Stealing themselves for the most decisive engagement of the day, the Assault Terminator Force storms into the occupied manufactorium building, swinging their power weapons wildly as they move from floor to floor, annihilating every green skin they can get their hands on. They manage to destroy many of the orc forces initially, yet these orcs fight back ferociously, managing to inflict a single wound upon the minigun Terminator, and at the very top of the crumbling ruins, the commander's energy sword crackles violently in the air as he slices an orc in twain and throws the other from the battlements. With next to no orc resistance left on the battlefield, the remaining forces of the Ultramarines then rush forward to secure their objectives, which is the other side of the rail tracks, with the attack APC trundling up behind to support the final assaults. With the last of the orc resistance well and truly wiped out, any surviving grots scurry back into the darkness and away from the city back north towards further holdouts, leaving the Ultramarines in full control of this vital Imperial strongpoint. This will allow further access of reinforcements to arrive, and as the sun continues to climb higher into the sky above the Tsara-Grad, the surviving commanders link up with the Terminator forces to discuss their battle plans for the weeks ahead. Now, with 2 additional Terminator forces under their control, the Space Marines double back their efforts to the eastern edge of the map, as they attempt to throw everything they have into the Ord-Unel strongpoint to hopefully eliminate another Warboss that has been plaguing this region, and also to answer a fellow allied battle brother's distress call, that of the Red Scorpions.
This is Squad Leader Balafax. If anyone is receiving this signal, my men have located a trio of orc holdouts to the north. We've run low on weapons and ammunition, and we require immediate support.